It honestly doesn't matter if you're a San Francisco 49er fan or a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. The one question that I think both fan bases have in common is regarding what is taking so long to figure out the decision regarding Brandon Aiyuk. Is he staying? Is he going? Because as we know, Ian Rappaport revealed that not only did Brandon Aiyuk accept the terms of the contract from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the San Francisco 49ers had accepted the trade compensation from the Steelers. So, to recap all of that, the trade was accepted in principle, not finalized, but in principle. So, what are we waiting for? If the trade is one signature away from being finalized, what's the holdup? I think we have the holdup. It's the trade package that the 49ers had reportedly accepted from the Steelers. It just got reported from a longtime beat reporter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He goes by the name of Gary Dulac. He joined the Rich Eisen show today. Obviously, enough credibility to be invited on the Rich Eisen show. And this is what he had to say in regards to revealing what the Pittsburgh Steelers had reportedly given up. And it kind of begs the question, did the 49ers really accept this? Because I don't think they did. Let's take a look at what is being reported. Dulac says the Steelers offered a second round pick and something else for Ayuk. Quote, the Steelers, I was told, were not going to offer any players in the trade. They were going to offer draft picks, a number 2, and then something else. I guess they are just kind of waiting to see what the 49ers decide to do. And here lies the waiting game. Obviously, if the San Francisco 49ers were going to accept a second and something else, let's just call it a second and a fourth round draft pick for Brandon Aiyuk, that would be a disgustingly bad trade. Awful, lost L right off the bat. No questions, no analysis needed, just a terrible trade. So, if this is the trade that the 49ers have reportedly agreed to in principle, yet haven't done anything for over a week on this, did they really agree to that trade? Because I don't think they did. And so, with all this situation, and again, things floating around through the media, if this is a credible source, which I do believe it is, and he is accurate in the information by saying that there's no player coming back to the San Francisco 49ers in this deal, it's just future draft picks. Why would the 49ers accept that? Why would that even be an option? Other than the simple fact of to try to use it as a point of leverage potentially in this negotiation. If that is really all that there is, then this makes literally zero sense for the San Francisco 49ers to accept. So, as we do know, the 49ers were offered a pretty solid haul from the Cleveland Browns. In comparison to this, it was Amari Cooper, a second round pick, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was either fourth or fifth round pick, somewhere in that mid round range. So obviously, contrasting that deal to then what the Steelers are offering, which was as a future second and likely a future mid-round draft pick, it is a significantly less than the deals that the 49ers had reportedly accepted in principle, according to multiple reports from the Browns. We also heard that a trade with Matthew Judon, a second round draft pick, and potentially a wide receiver like Kendrick Bourne was also accepted. Both of those deals, in principle, don't even compare to what the Steelers have offered. So, this to me is where the hangup is that many people have believed since that Ian Rappaport report came out is that they're waiting for Ayuk to sign. If he doesn't sign, they're going to ship him off to Pittsburgh Steelers. This is why for the last week or so, I've been saying I really don't think the 49ers are going to trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Pittsburgh Steelers because what are you getting in return? And then we also heard that, okay, well, maybe what the 49ers do is they trade Ayuk to the Steelers. They take the compensation that they got back and they flip that into another wide receiver. That's where the Cortland Sutton, Devontae Brown, T. Higgins speculation and kind of discourse came from. But it sounds like the 49ers haven't been able to find a situation where you can justify trading Brandon Ayuk for that little of compensation and then somehow trying to obtain an X wide receiver in return. So that's why this situation, as it continues to go on and it continues to develop, just this feels like a one horse race between Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers. And I've said that for about a week now, and been very confident that I don't think Brandon Ayuk is going to get traded unless some mysterious team just pops into the mix and somehow provides that player that the 49ers looking for and provides a contract that also Brandon Ayuk would accept. Because also what we've heard from the Steelers is they've only offered 28 million to Brandon Ayuk, whereas the San Francisco 49ers are now in the range of 30. So why do we keep talking about the Steelers? Why are the Steelers still being discussed as a viable option for Brandon Ayuk? Based on all the information that we have, based on just trying to use as much common sense as we can use with the information provided, it makes zero sense for the San Francisco 49ers to trade Brandon Ayuk to the Steelers. Literally zero sense. It would be a negative impact to the San Francisco 49ers to execute this. A second round draft pick, a mid round draft pick, zero players, moving off an all pro, losing out on 75 receptions, nearly 1,400 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. You instantly have a hole on your roster where you have to replicate that production using Ricky Pearsall, who hasn't stepped foot in a preseason game yet. Jawan Jennings, who I think had approximately 230 yards receiving last year. Jacob Cowing, Chris Conley. Those guys are going to replace the production left by Brandon Ayuk. I don't think so. And I think the 49ers understand that, which is why they haven't done this, because nothing makes sense. None of it makes sense. For the 49ers to be able to have it make sense, Ayuk needed to go to the Browns or the Pats. In this instance, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for it even doesn't make sense for Brandon. It doesn't make sense for him to accept the contract offer that's out there from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So again, as I've reiterated, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing it at this point, there seems like there's one viable option. And that viable option is the San Francisco 49ers and the Brandon Ayuk come to terms, they figure this out, they cross the finish line, they get this done, because a trade doesn't sound familiar. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen. It just does not sound like it's going to happen. And I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, we'll just force him to play on the 5th-year option. And that's not going to happen either. Like, that's why we're in this place, is because he's not going to play on the 5th-year option. I've heard a lot discussed about forcing him to play. There's so many other ramifications that come along with that. Locker room optics, a ton of internal situations, forcing an all-pro player to play significantly under market value. There are a lot of issues that come along with it. Now, from the outside looking in, yes, making Brandon Ayuk play at $14.1 million next year sounds like a great idea for the team, but that's just unfortunately not how things work. There's a reason why teams won't trade for Brandon Ayuk and force him to play on the 5th-year option. That's why they're going to give him a new contract. There's no situation that currently exists where Brandon Ayuk plays next season without a new contract. That's just the reality of the situation. So people keep talking about that idea, but it's unfortunately not an idea, because if there was any truth to that reality, the 49ers wouldn't exhaust all of this energy just to be in the same spot to pay him more than what they could have 4 months ago, 6 months ago, who knows, even longer. So I just think we need to kind of lose that idea that Ayuk is going to play on the 5th-year. It's just not going to happen. All the signs point to that. It's very easy to see. So, what that leaves is the 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk, coming to terms on an agreement and getting this thing done. We understand there's a small hiccup in regards to getting this thing ironed out. The majority of everything that has been reported is that these deals have been ironed out. Probably like 90, it sounds like 95% has been ironed out. We're kind of in that last 5%. And that seems like where we have been since Rappaport dropped that report that a trade to the Steelers has been agreed to in principle. I don't think it really was. It doesn't sound like it was, because if the 49ers agreed to this, they would be significantly worse off for accepting that. So, bottom line is, I guess we're happy that they haven't accepted that. But what is your thoughts? What do you think on this being the compensation that the Steelers are sending back? We've talked about it. The Steelers aren't a desperate team. They're not going to overspend and all these things. And it appears that's right on brand. So, what do you guys think about this whole situation? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.